than other people. And we actually have an exercise that we go through with 6 disciplines to identify that for the company during the strategic planning session. We're good to go. And then working on the core values is important too. And it's important for you. What are your core values? I was very fortunate to work for Cressa for 10 years. Bill Goad started the company, and he started it to do the right thing. He had been on the other side of the real estate table. He had been a consumer of commercial real estate and saw a lot of things happen that he did not like. So he flipped the coin and he created Cressa, which is a tenant rep only firm. And he was determined that it would be a do the right thing company. So it was not just on the website, it was what we lived at Cressa. We had every employee every year sign a code of ethics, for example. I saw Bill Goad let some very high producers go at an annual convention because they insulted the hotel staff. He did not want his company to be, for that to be a black mark on his company. In Atlanta, we had to let a very high producer go, which hurt our revenue for that year. He's a very successful real estate broker. He works for another company. He's a very nice man, but he did some things that our partners felt was not doing the right thing. And he was asked to leave. So your values can impact you negatively sometimes, but living by your values shows your clients and small business clients what the company's all about. And I wanted to share with you a couple of value statements that we created from strategic planning for constructive ingenuity. It's so funny, Sarah started the company and named it constructive ingenuity, and what they really value is coming up with a solution that nobody else would come up with. So they do industrial project management, they move manufacturing plants, and they do build-to-suit industrial kind of buildings, and they run into all kinds of obstacles. And what they really want to do is be the very best at thinking through that problem and getting that building or whatever online, on time, and under budget, right? So she had never had a value statement. She had people in the room that had worked for her for 10 years. She had people in the room that had worked for her for 2 weeks. And we did this in 10 minutes. Everybody knew intrinsically what the values of that company were. So it was almost like magic that it just started coming out when we went through the exercise to look at values. On the other hand, if you want to go forward, SBS Accounting is a Christian organization, and it's all over their website. And their first value, which you wouldn't expect in business, is love for others. And he started the company knowing that that's what he wanted to do. So I think that's pretty interesting. And of course, they have the things you want for an accounting firm, attention to detail and that integrity and that kind of thing. But their very first value is love for others. So one of the things that's important to think about, both for you as you write your strategic plan, but as you lead others, small businesses, is what do you want to come out of the plan with, right? In the case of constructive ingenuity, we knew we wanted to come out of that plan with a financial model. And at the end of the day, we had the inputs for the financial model. And we built a financial model for 3 different divisions, which they had never had before. We knew we wanted to come out of the day with key performance indicators by division. So we had to collect data going into it. We discussed it while we were in the meeting that day. And by the end of the day, for 3 different divisions, we had their KPIs for the year. So you have to think through what is it that we want to come out with to develop how we're going to get there. Your strategic plan may be this 1-page canvas that I have over here. I'm a mentor down at Advanced Technology Development Center and help with the financial modeling class there. But one of the things they have all of the companies do is this 1-page business canvas that I mentioned to you at the beginning. So that may be your strategic plan for the year. When I'm working with small businesses, and y'all may feel differently about this, we rarely come out with a 40-page strategic plan. That's not what we're there for. That's going to go in a drawer somewhere. We come out with a financial model. We may come out with a spreadsheet of all the initiatives that they want to accomplish for the year with dates and assignments, and that may be the strategic plan, right? I find with small businesses, if there's more than 2 or 3 major initiatives, it's not going to get done, right? So you pick the ones that are really going to be important. So be thinking about when you're doing your strategic plan or when you're helping others do it, what's the output that you want to come have at the end of that day or the half day, whatever you decide to do. And of course, you guys are very seasoned professionals, so you know that you have to look at external factors. Greg O'Brien with Medicare Caddy is market demographics. He would not have a successful business if there weren't millions of baby boomers turning 65, right? He is in a sweet spot demographically now for his business because of that. Another technology, we're talking about that today. Who would think that your vendor would compete with you? So SBS Accounting offers virtual accounting services. He uses QuickBooks in the business, and guess what QuickBooks is doing? Offering virtual accounting services. So his very vendor is competing with him. So that's the kind of things that we try to bring out in a strategic planning day, is what's happening in the environment that could really impact the business either positively or negatively. And of course, you guys know all about SWAT, and you have to do that for yourself too. And I don't think Greg would mind me telling you, in his case, he is really great face-to-face. And those of you in sales know it takes a couple of years to build up your business, and then all of a sudden, if you've done the right things, you start getting phone calls, right? You start getting emails, and at some point, it's overwhelming for one person. I think, Jeff, you're kind of getting there too, right? So you need a little assistance, and that was one of the weaknesses that we identified, and now he has a part-time administrator. So that's a one-man business. We looked at his strategic plan, what did he need to do, and that was one of the things that we had to address. It seems very simple, but he's not going to be able to move forward and be successful without that assistant. So you can think of it for yourself too. What is it that you're really great at? What maybe you need some help with, and maybe it's IT, maybe it's social media, and maybe you can hire somebody to help you with that part of it, or Jeff for messaging, right? To get your website up and get your messaging going. But with small businesses, it's really important to look at what they can and cannot do and where they may need other resources. And then finally, of course, you have to document what you do. So a written plan, like I said, it could be a spreadsheet. It could be a financial model. It may be KPIs that you're going to start looking at every quarter. But to really document and make sure that you're aligned with your goals, and make sure that there's assignments so that people are actually going to be accountable for whatever the business came up with as their strategic plan. And then learn from your mistakes. I love being down at ATDC with the young entrepreneurs, and one of the things that they make them do is a 10-week class on customer discovery. So they have to go out and interview 100 potential clients. Now, how many people in this room have ever interviewed 100 potential clients? You have? That's awesome. That's what they make them do. And it's so interesting because during that 10-week period, they have to come back every week and report on the 10 that they did that week, right? The famous word down there is pivot. We pivoted, right? Because they start out thinking they're going to sell this sensor. They have this great sensor technology, and they're going to sell it to a refrigerated truck company, right? And they do their interviews. You have to interview people that would actually pay for your product. And use your product, right? And then at the end, they'll end up selling it to a medical marijuana company. I mean, it's so interesting how they'll change the segment, for example, that they may be selling to as they go through that process. So we're veterans, but we have to learn from our mistakes too. So in every mistake or every is a special opportunity. Every problem is a special opportunity to pivot and to do something differently if it's not working for us. So now I've given you some superpowers. Everybody can go out and do their strategic planning now. I really encourage you to look over here. I've got a wheel of life. I've got big, hairy, audacious goal setting tool here, and also a business canvas for you if you want to take advantage of that.
So we got plenty of time left. Any questions for Paula or any discussion?
The 6 disciplines methodology, I didn't want to try to sell my services too much, but it's a really great strategic planning day. There's a lot of prep, as I've said, that goes into it. So it's not like I just show up on that day and we do the strategic planning. It's days of work prior to that to decide what do we want to come out of that with. But it is a very good methodology, and it's a video. Each segment of the strategic planning day is a video followed by an exercise. So for example, there's a video on mission statement, and then you do an exercise on mission statement and help guide the company through creating that mission statement. Same thing with vision, etc. So it's a very structured methodology for coming out of the day with a very specific plan for the company.
So is this really designed for small to medium-sized businesses?
Yep. Exactly.
Paula, great presentation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So what's your best way of helping clients to make sure they execute on that plan?
Sometimes they retain me to help them execute on their plans. So 2 of the 3 people I have up there, I'm still working with as, you know, doing what I would call COO kind of work. And then having a quarterly follow-up. So in Sarah's case, we did the strategic plan last April, and then in August, we had a follow-up. We had another one in November where we did a half day, and we went through to see where they were with their KPIs and that kind of thing. So, but that's so hard for small businesses. I know it's hard for me as a solopreneur. I know what I want to do, and then I'm like, God, I didn't get that done, you know. But
Joel and Jeff.
Actually, having helped you with your positioning message, isn't the simplicity of it a big part of helping them execute?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I had up there, I know y'all think, oh, well, she has up there, take the time. That's the biggest part of it, is to say, it took us 2 months probably to find a day with constructive ingenuity where she could bring all those people in, because a lot of them are on projects all over the place. She works all over the United States. So just taking the time to do it is important.
Joel?
Any opportunities for correction in your planning process for anybody who planning process with clients, or in the process of actually working through strategic planning where you say, you know, I wish I did this another way, or here's something that I want to do better?
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of oops too, right? But in my case with small businesses, I really try to work with them. Like I said, you don't show up on that day and do strategic planning. We talk, what do we want to come out of this with, and what do we need going into it to come out of it with this? But I have to tell you that methodology for 6 disciplines works pretty well. And I'll skip modules or put different modules in depending on what they want to do. So there's 6 disciplines. There's a lot of good stuff in discipline 6 before you get to discipline 1. So I pulled discipline 6 into the strategic planning day if it was appropriate for that client. Does that make sense? The clients that I have pretty much know if they're satisfying their customers. They're not big enough to have customer surveys and that kind of thing.
80%
So
of CEOs think they offer an exceptional customer.
that's right. Yeah. We did with SBS, for example, look at why they had lost customers. So that was part of the day thinking about that. Yeah. That's when they know, I think, small businesses, when they start losing customers and they're losing revenue. Too late. It's way too late, for sure. I had a quick little thing on predictive index you had asked me about, if you want to do that real fast. Just a couple of slides on that.
Do they follow this?
Yeah, I didn't put them in case we didn't have time.
Good.